If we look at a disorder like histrionic personality disorder, we see that these individuals are oftentimes more creative, so they're high in openness to experience, and they tend to do well in jobs where it pays to have an imagination. We see with borderline personality disorder that people tend to experience emotions more intensely when they have that disorder. But what really connects all the mental disorders together? It's the ability to empathize and understand with other people who have mental disorders. One of the keys is how we process adversity. And I think this is actually a key for understanding a lot of different people, not just individuals with mental disorder. Now, a lot of people have adversity. You could argue that just about everybody has adversity in their life, but not everyone does the processing. So it's really, what I'm talking about here in terms of this ability to empathize, in part really comes from applying the lessons of dealing with an adversity in an effort to understand other people. And now to move this one step forward toward focuses around this idea that turning points are key for people, like how they react this way. Sometimes at an important event, like a relationship that's gone bad or some sort of abuse that's occurred or some type of accident, somebody will get stuck, and sometimes they're able to learn and grow and develop through it instead. And sometimes actually a little of both happens. I don't really remember much about the accident. I don't remember the helicopter flight at all. You really just get flashes of it. And if anybody has been in a similar type of severe accident or trauma, I think this will make a lot of sense to them, right? You get these flashes, these moments of memory where you kind of see things and then you're unconscious again, right? A lot of people come in and out of your room. A lot of people that you don't even know really what they're there for. Some people you might recognize, injecting me with this or that or the other. There was this surgeon who would come in once in a while. He wasn't my surgeon. Maybe you were actually awake more than you thought, but you only remember these flashes. And I remember this one time he came to check on me, and it was one of the first times he had come in to talk to me. And he gave me some advice. He said, looking at my chart, he says, wow, you're permanently disabled. You're going to have difficulty walking. You always have a limp, and you always have pain. And he was right. I do have pain pretty much all the time. Then he started to have a change of tone. And he said, look, he said, you're going to have to work harder and learn more and make fewer mistakes to be competitive with even average performers. You're at a permanent disadvantage. And you just need to know that you're going to have to put the effort in and work to be the best in hopes just to be average. You know, why am I going to have to work harder and be better and all this? And she was talking to me, kind of light conversation, asking me what I wanted to be. Kind of like past, I wanted to be a pilot when I was young. The conversation, she got this look on her face, like it kind of changed the whole tone. She was really offended by what I said, and I thought, oh, I guess she doesn't like pilots. I didn't know what was going on. I said, well, I hope that you're never flying a plane that I'm in. That because of all my injuries, I wouldn't be suitable to pilot an aircraft. Mean-spirited, but it really was kind of negative, and she had this really disdainful look on her face. I'll really never forget that look. Have you figured this out? Have you figured out why you need to work harder? Because some people hate me for no reason. And he looked at me and he said, exactly. Exactly. I said, because some people hate me for no reason. The way I said, and he looked at me and he said, exactly. You'll never defeat this. You'll never defeat this with hate. To get me, I'll never defeat them, whatever. But he just said, you'll never defeat this with hate. Keep my emotions balanced and take time to react. It really became a part of my personality for no reason. So now moving away from that story, I know that wasn't really an uplifting story or anything, but I think it's got that the superpower that all people with mental disorders have access to is this ability to empathize. I would say it's not necessarily about the symptoms, right? It's not because somebody who's depressed knows what somebody else feels like when they're depressed, that they understand feeling hopeless or worthless. It's not because somebody who has consumed substances in excess understands cravings, understands why people commit crimes to alcohol or buy drugs. Superpower. The real advantage is understanding what people go through in terms of the stigma. It's the look, the comments, the discrimination. But whatever caused the disorder, for most people, is likely far in the past. Genetics, abuse that occurred when they were young. In some sense, what caused the disorder is kind of set in stone. That doesn't mean that recovery isn't possible. Causative elements are usually in the past. The stigma has more of a current feel to it. Yes, there's a history of stigma as well, and the symptoms are challenging. I'm not minimizing how bad the symptoms can be. If they've developed this skill, again, you have to process this, they can really use this skill to help other people, and it is a superpower. Association with these other superpowers, the understanding to have a positive result. So I know whenever I talk about mental health stigma and mental disorders in general, there are going to be a lot of opinions. A lot of different people have had adversity. They process the adversity in different ways. They continue to process an ongoing adversity in different ways. If you have any thoughts on this video, if you agree with me or disagree with me, or have your own story, please put those in the comments. As always, 25% of people have a mental illness right at this moment. So really another way to look at that is at any given time, 25% of the population will qualify for a mental disorder as classified in the DSM. We have other research.
Is everyone mentally ill?
Welcome to my scientifically informed insider look at is everyone mentally ill? So this is an interesting question. This is actually a question I've received many times in many different forms. Another popular question is how many people in the population have a mental disorder, and a lot of other similar questions like that. Now, technically the answer to that first question, is everyone mentally ill? The technical answer, of course, is no. But I'm actually going to answer this question from 3 different perspectives. Yes, meaning most people or almost everybody is mentally ill. No, everyone's not mentally ill. And maybe, which is kind of my take on the whole situation. It's mental illnesses even when they're part of a study. So they may underreport or minimize certain symptoms. So this kind of moves toward this argument that everyone is mentally ill because of mental illness at some point in their lives. That's one way we could look at this. Why do so many people not report mental illness? Under this theory that everyone has mental illness, why is it so underreported? Well, I mentioned a couple reasons before, but what we see here is there's a stigma associated with mental illness, and it's a stigma different than we see a lot of times with other situations in life. There's a fear, a loss of employment, of being abandoned. We see misinformation about mental illness that makes people reluctant to report it, embarrassment, and also I think there's condescending behavior sometimes. If somebody tells somebody else they have a mental illness, it kind of changes the power position a little because of that stigma and some underreporting. It's self-perpetuating with some of the disorders like OCD, generalized anxiety disorder, social anxiety disorder, panic disorder, major depressive disorder, and almost all the personality disorders we think have a self-perpetuating component to them. So the disorder itself means that a person probably won't seek treatment or may not report that they have symptoms. Now we can also look at this from another point of view, which is one mental illness can increase the risk of another. And the best example of this is a mental disorder leading to substance use disorder. And we know that if an individual has a mental disorder, the risk of them developing a substance use disorder is much higher than if they don't have a mental disorder. And I think a lot of this risk is because there's a failure to treat that original mental disorder, because the person doesn't seek treatment for a variety of reasons. Treatment, or because treatment's not available, or a variety of reasons. There's a failure to treat the original mental disorder for a variety of reasons. There's a failure to treat that original mental disorder. Again, because the person doesn't seek treatment, or because treatment's not available, or a variety of reasons. Okay, so that's the yes answer. Okay, so that's the yes answer. So is everyone mentally ill? That would be, yes, they are, or at some point they will be, or almost everybody will be at some point. So what about the negative answer, or answering no to that question? Well, here this leads us down a much different path.